Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. You've probably seen the headlines swirling around. USA pauses visas for 75 countries. It sounds alarming, and there's a lot of confusion out there. So today, we're going to break down exactly what this means, who it affects, and why it's happening. Stick with me, because we're going to separate the facts from the fear. First things first, and this is crucial. This is not a blanket travel ban. Let me repeat that. It is not a travel ban. If you're planning to visit the US as a tourist, study as a student, or travel for business, this new policy does not affect you. Your B1, B2 visitor visas and F1 student visas are processed as usual. So, if you were worried about your vacation or your university plans, you can breathe a sigh of relief. This announcement is much more specific than the headlines suggest. So, what exactly has changed? The US State Department has put a temporary pause on processing certain immigrant visas for nationals of 75 specific countries. Now, it's important to understand the difference between an immigrant visa and a non-immigrant visa. Non-immigrant visas are for temporary stays, like tourism, business, or education. Immigrant visas, on the other hand, are for people seeking to live permanently in the United States. These are the visas that lead to lawful permanent residency, what most people call a green card. This pause is specifically targeted at those immigrant visa applications, not the temporary ones. Now, let's get into the details of who is actually affected by this pause. We're talking about applicants for family-based immigrant visas, which are for relatives of US citizens or permanent residents. It also includes employment-based immigrant visas, for those coming to the US for a specific job offer that leads to permanent residency. Finally, it affects applicants in the Diversity Visa Lottery Program, also known as the Green Card Lottery. To put it simply, if you are in the process of trying to move to the US permanently from one of the listed countries, your application process might be temporarily on hold. Again, non-immigrant visas for visitors, business travelers, and students are not part of this. They continue to be processed normally. So, why did this happen? What's the official reason behind this decision? According to US authorities, this pause is rooted in a specific aspect of US immigration law. It's connected to what's known as the public charge rule. This rule requires consular officers to assess whether an immigrant visa applicant is likely to become primarily dependent on the government for subsistence. This is evaluated by looking at the applicant's age, health, family status, assets, resources, and financial status. The government has stated that this pause is to ensure compliance with these public charge assessments and is part of an administrative review. It is essentially a procedural halt to review how these rules are being applied to applicants from these specific countries. Let's talk about the countries involved. The list of 75 countries is quite extensive, spanning across Africa, Asia, Europe, and Latin America. We won't list all of them here to avoid misinformation and keep the focus on the policy itself, but it's a global list. The key takeaway here is that officials are calling this an administrative review. The word pause is being used deliberately. This isn't being framed as a permanent ban or a final decision. It's a temporary measure while the administration reviews its internal procedures. The situation is fluid, and it's important to see it as a policy under review rather than a permanent door being shut. I also want to add a very important clarification. No existing valid visas have been cancelled. If you already have a valid immigrant or non-immigrant visa in your passport, it remains valid. This policy does not revoke any visas that have already been issued. Furthermore, if you are a dual national, meaning you hold a passport from one of the affected countries, but also from a country that is not on the list, you are generally not affected if you apply using your non-affected passport. This nuance is important for many people who hold multiple citizenships. So, what should you do now? The most important thing is to stay informed and avoid panic. Immigration policies can and do change frequently, and headlines are often designed to grab your attention with the most dramatic interpretation. The best course of action is always to rely on official sources. Check the US State Department's website or the website of the US Embassy or consulate in your country for the most accurate and up-to-date information. Be very wary of rumors you see spreading on social media or in messaging apps. Misinformation can cause unnecessary stress and anxiety. Always verify information with official government sources before making any decisions or assumptions. This situation can be incredibly stressful, especially for those who are directly impacted. If you're feeling overwhelmed, anxious, or distressed by this news, please know that it's okay to seek support. To wrap up, the recent news about the US visa pause is specifically about immigrant visa processing for 75 countries, based on an administrative review of public charge rules. It is not a travel ban and does not affect tourists, students, or business travelers. No existing visas are being cancelled. The situation is still developing, so the best thing you can do is stay calm and follow official updates. Thank you so much for watching and for taking the time to understand the real story behind the headlines.